I just want to start by welcoming everyone to Lewiston, the second largest city in Maine, but the city with the biggest heart. And we are going to begin tonight with a report of the Ad hoc Rental Registration Committee with a workshop.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I think you recall we have already provided you with a copy of the report. There's also another copy included in your agenda packet tonight if you want to refer to that as we go through the discussion. What I'd like to do is try to summarize the report. David Hediger is here too, and I think we have a couple of members of the committee who have come. I will note that the members of the committee are included, are listed on the front page of the final report so you can see who was involved in the process. Basically what the committee did, they started their recommendations by looking at a proposal that came forward to the council about a year ago from code enforcement for a rental registration program that would have required a fee. The committee recommended against that program, and as we'll get to in a bit, they recommended an alternative no-fee program which to replace what was originally proposed. But prior to getting to that point, they also spent some time taking a look at the goals that we should set out for any kind of a program. And I'm going to say it got a little bit beyond just rental registration into a more generalized discussion of housing issues in the community. And I'll run through those and some of the key recommendations. First goal was to protect the health and safety of residents by ensuring the health and safety of our rental properties. Some of the recommendations there, for example, were to clarify the roles and responsibilities of fire prevention and code enforcement, with fire being proactive and code being more targeted and reactive. Effectively, I think by defining that in the report, that's pretty much already put that into place. Providing staff with improved technology. You will recall that you have included in the budget funding for the code officers to have pads, handheld devices in the field with them so that they can enter the data. So that's well in its underway. Improving the fire record system so that we have better data on actual inspections. That's in process. Developing a risk analysis approach to how we schedule our inspections. That is going to take a while, so that's not in place yet, but I think it's something that we'll work toward over the next year or so. Adding a fire inspector position, which is included in the budget, and we'll be looking to fill that position in October. That position will basically be charged with continuing the routine inspection program when the engine companies can't do that work, and also assisting the engine companies when they're available to do it. One of the things that we're going to need to do down the road, and I'm going to guess it's going to be 2 or 3 years from now, is to review the level of our overall inspection staffing to see if we're reaching the goals that the committee has recommended, that we effectively look at all of our 3-unit or larger properties at least once every 3 years. So I think by the time we get the new staffing on board, we get the technology in place, we will start getting better data so that we can see what we're actually accomplishing with our current staff and if we need to make any additional adjustments in the future. Establishing a general assistance tenant education program. We have already done that as well. We are running 1 tenant education class per month. We were running 2, but we don't have the same volume of general assistance applicants as we've had in the past, so we're down to having 1 training session a month. Implementing a lead-safe registry. I think that's something that's going to come after we get the rental registration program up. That may be one of the items that we're going to look for information from owners on, is whether their property is lead-free or lead-safe. And as I mentioned, adopting a 3-year goal to inspect all multifamily properties within a 3-year period. The second goal was attracting and supporting property owners who are committed to providing healthy and safe housing. This is where the committee is recommending a no-fee rental registration program. That program would require individuals to register their properties and also who their property maintenance people are, give us good contact information as to ownership and 24-hour emergencies, and allow us to start putting together a complete database of the information that we need to operate effectively. So that's going to involve a number of steps: drafting an ordinance, hiring a clerk in the city clerk's office who will be coordinating this program in terms of handling the paperwork and administration of it, sending out the notices, getting people to register. The committee talked a lot about trying to provide incentives for people to register, and as we went through that, it became a little bit more difficult to identify things that we could do. The one incentive that they're recommending is that we prioritize compliant property owners, those who register their properties and have no violations, to allow them to enter the smart water meter program first. One of the complaints we hear frequently from apartment owners, from multifamily owners, is that they may have a leak or they may have a toilet that's running and the tenant doesn't inform them. They don't know until they get a very large water bill. So with the smart meter program, they'll have the ability to track that pretty much in real time, and giving them that incentive might help a little bit to get people to sign into the system. One of the things we want to do is to make all of this registration data available to various city departments, and I'm kind of shooting to try to get that up and running by a year from now, next summer, once we get through the initial registration program. A further goal there is at some point to get this data available to the public. That may take a little bit longer, so I've kind of pushed that out to year 2 of implementation. Looking at MIS and code, trying to determine what the best way to do that is. One option is to do it through our GIS system, so that we would add a layer to our GIS system that people could inquire onto individual properties and get their registration, basic public registration information, and also the history of any violations that they have and their current status. Another is to upgrade the EnerGov system, another upgrade, add a module to it which would allow public portal to be accessed through that system. So we'll be looking at that over the next couple of years. Another recommendation is to improve the information that we provide to landlords, giving them a more simplified inspection checklist so that they can self-inspect, educating them on how to address and identify lead risks in their properties, and publicizing the city's rehab programs, better information for renters through lead education, renter training, as mentioned, we're already doing, at least with our GA clients, designating a staff member as a multifamily business partner, kind of a one-person contact for multifamily owners who have issues, and then creating a standing housing committee to establish, I guess, a better overall consistent ongoing approach to our housing issues, I think both in terms of existing housing issues and perhaps in terms of new projects coming along. And that's something I think we're going to have some discussion about, and we can certainly put some information together for the council about how that kind of a committee might work. Goal 3 was educating and providing resources for the general public. That, again, was talking about upgrading the system so that the public would have access to this information online. And also, I think us having a better handle on our own internal performance data as to what's going on, how many properties we've inspected, the number of properties that are in violation, the number of buildings that are condemned, all of that kind of information would give us an ongoing way to track how our housing efforts are going. And then goal 4 was to educate and provide resources for owners and renters. That again is checklists so that they can self-inspect. Offering a landlord training class on a trial basis. I think we're going to give that a try to see if we can have enough interest on the part of the owner community, the landlord community, to participate in that. That would be focused on helping them understand what the most common violations are, how to address them, those kinds of issues, lead issues, things like that. Another recommendation was to pursue higher general assistance rental payments. The good news is, come September, we will be adjusting our rents, and the rents, depending on the size of the unit, will be increasing anywhere from 6 to about 10–12%. So we are seeing a big jump. As I've started digging into that more, the problem is not so much the rental amounts that are allowed, it's the overall maximums that are allowed. So we have situations where we cannot provide an individual, particularly a 1 or 2 family situation, with a sufficient overall maximum to allow them to pay the fair market rent. so that in effect it's forcing it down. And I don't know that there's no administrative way necessarily to change that. That might take some discussion with the legislature to see if they want to take a look at modifying that formula, because if you add up the maximum for each of the categories they allow, it far exceeds the overall maximum we're allowed to provide. And I know one of the factors that affects that is a few years ago, they started reducing the overall maximum by 10%, just as kind of I don't know where that number came from, but just when they computed it using HUD's formulas, and that they then reduced it by 10%. So I don't know if we can totally accomplish getting our rents up to where the landlords feel that they're making a reasonable rent from our GA clients. And again, it's mostly a problem in 1- and 2-person households. Goal 5 was to address inappropriate and illegal activity in and around properties. The biggest recommendation there is that we change our disorderly property policy. Right now, we only consider a property disorderly if we have 5 or more responses to a specific unit in a property within a month. We're going to change that to 5 or more responses to the property, regardless of the unit that was involved. So that's going to be a change. I suspect that change is going to be made pretty quickly, probably sometime in the near future. And then there is a recommendation we consider a tenant vandalism ordinance, and the police department will be looking into that. And then the last goal was just to aggressively pursue funding, and we will continue to do that. It's going to take a lot of fiscal support to address all of these issues, and certainly we're going to continue to go after lead grants and other kinds of grants that might help us assist our housing in the downtown area. So that is kind of an overview of the report. I'll be glad to answer any questions that people have, and I know there are some members of the committee here who may want to say something, and Dave, as the chair, I don't know if he wants to add anything, because I didn't cover everything. I tried to hit the highlights.
You did a great job.
Thank you, Dave.
So before I open it up to the council, I'm wondering, I know that there are folks from the committee here, if there's anything you want to add to what was just presented to us? All right. Questions from the council? No questions. Great job.
Oh, wait. I'm impressed.
It's been a long Tuesday for everybody. Oh, I do have a question. So, what are the next steps for this?
What I'm working on right now, and I've already sent out to the various staff involved, is an implementation schedule
Okay.
that puts out all of these recommendations and indicates the actual schedule that needs to be done. So I expect that I'll have that done within the next week or so. There are several issues. The biggest issue that I think the council needs to address in the near future is the issue of what you want to do with the housing committee. In the report, there is a recommendation on the composition of that committee from some of the conversations I had. I know that's something that people want to take some time and take a look at. I'd be happy to try to put something together for you as an initial draft of a charge, kind of like we've done for other committees, that indicate composition, areas they're supposed to be involved in, staff support, all of those kinds of things, term of their members.
So that would be great if you could do that. The sort of description and charge, and then the membership that was included in this packet looked good to me. So if you could, I guess, if both of you could get together and sort of look at that and make sure that it
Membership
looks.
included, you're talking to
So
people that were on the
the
committee itself?
recommendation that came from
Okay.
one of the
Yeah,
committees.
yeah.
Can you pull that out real quick?
So maybe we could start there.
I have Dave pull that out real quickly. And he can.
So it's on
It's
page
in-
14.
was in the- yeah, it's back
It's page
further.
14.
Page 14.
The multifamily property business partners, representatives from LA Public Health Committee, representatives from local health-related nonprofits, tenants, business operators, property managed companies, and other community stakeholders to be determined.
So if you guys could get together and figure out like how many people from each of those categories might be appropriate, it might be good to go back to the committee and ask them what their thoughts on that, what a good number would be. And then there are, some categories in here which, an open call wouldn't really make sense to do, like the property management companies. I mean, I guess we could put out an open call to those folks as well, but you would know who those are better than I would.
Right.
But I think, we do want to put out an open call for tenants
And are you
and
go-
business
you-
operators.
Are you interested in having this as an ordinance-established permanent committee or
Yes.
a ad hoc committee that would have a set term?
I mean, I don't think that housing issues are going to go away, so for me, I think that it's a permanent committee, but I'm open to, the opinions of other folks on the council. Councilor
Yeah, and I
Lacey?
think we've had them in the past, if I'm correct. David, do you remember?
We think so, but we don't,
Because it was a standing committee.
Yeah, we have had committees. I don't know that they were necessarily standing
Standing, that's right.
committees.
yeah.
I mean, we did have the Downtown Neighborhood Action Committee, which was partially related to housing, but
And that was
more
after,
broadly.
yeah.
Right.
That was also an ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
We were trying to find that document, because everyone refers to one that's occurred in the
There were-
past,
I
but
know
we
there
haven't
was.
find the actual, whether it was standing, ad hoc, whatnot, so. But no, the housing conditions aren't gonna go away, so.
Yeah, I wanted to, on behalf of the committee, thank the council for their support with the fire inspector position and also the technology. I think the city administrator gave a good review of that. The other thing about fees and money, I mean, it's interesting, one of the things we found out is we don't know how much this program's going to cost, so how can we charge a fee? And I think when it was first approached, it was like, well, how much can we get per unit? What kind of program can we build? How many staff can we hire? That's not where we wanted to go, because obviously it was a concern of some of the members of having any fee. So we said, what can we do without a fee? And obviously, down the road, we'll find out how much it does cost and maybe, entertain that issue again. But
Yeah,
heretofore, I think, with the staff person and the, I think we'll get a good start on it, so. And I think Amy's got some ideas on how to roll out, a pilot program that I think can get us started very well.
Yeah, a couple quick comments on that. One is there is, of course, a stick associated with this. When we do the ordinance establishing the program, there will be a penalty associated with failure to register. And I don't know that we've decided on what that's going to be yet, and that's something we'll be coming back to you on when we draft up an ordinance.
Can I ask one question?
The other
about-
thing to keep in mind is, I think the report talked about kicking off the registration process, the registrations in January. In talking with city clerk's office, we were trying to find a time in their schedule that was less hectic. And so we would be looking probably at starting to solicit the registrations in January and maybe to actually have the deadline in somewhere like March, so that it's off the election cycle and all of those other kinds of things that the office has to deal with.
So I think Amy has something to add, but can you come up to this table? Yeah.
I would have been disappointed if you hadn't had something to say.
I'm just tired.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing, to me personally, and I know to many people on the committee, is this was hard work, and we made some really great progress, and we really want to see it continue and really pick up steam. So the idea of the standing committee, so that we always have a group that's charged with this and is keeping their eye on the ball, is great. Getting the registry done as soon as possible, having it be as robust as possible, get the information sharing happen. I think we just got good momentum, and there was quite a cross-section of people who participated on the committee, and it was a big learning experience for everybody, but I personally was just very impressed by everybody's commitment to getting the job done, and especially to getting that the emergency contact information, keeping these buildings safe, and making sure that that we have more of a partnership approach between everybody who's involved in housing. So let's just keep it going.
I will add that committee worked very hard and had great attendance. They were meeting basically twice a month, and I know some of them met more frequently than that toward the end of the process when we were trying to detail out some of the recommendations. So they should all be complimented on the time, attention, and effort they put into the process.
So on behalf of the council, thank you all so much for your work on it.
Welcome.
In terms of the fee, the stick, and the fines for folks who don't register, have we thought about, setting up a fund within the city budget that those fees or fines would go into that would support the program? Or
Basically, by them going back into the general fund,
funds the position and
funds these
fire?
positions
Okay.
because all of them are general fund positions.
Okay.
And it's certainly, we're not going to produce anywhere near enough revenue off of fines to support all of the program.
Other questions? Councilor Marcotte?
Will there be some sort of an accounting, however, so that we can track how many fines are issued and what the
Yes.
dollar amount becomes?
Yes, that would be relatively easy for us to report.
That's why I thought the idea of an account made sense. But, yeah, it's not going to supply enough money of significance to fund the program.
No.
But an accounting method to keep track of it would be helpful.
Yes, it will be accounted separate. In other words, there'll be a separate revenue line item for that. So any revenue we receive will go into that account, and we'll be able to track how much it is.
Other questions from the council? Good. No public comment, sorry. All right, that closes the workshop.
And I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session to discuss acquisition of property of which the premature disclosure of the information would prejudice the competitive bargaining position of the city.
So I have a motion by Councilor Lyson, seconded by Councilor Pettingill. All those in favor? please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. So we're going to start tonight with a mayoral proclamation recognizing Arbor Week. So Lewiston, Maine was named a 2018, Tree City USA by the Arbor Day Foundation in honor of its commitment to effective urban forest management. And we have a proclamation here that I'm just going to read. Whereas the cities of Lewiston and Auburn are proud to be the home of the LA Community Forest Board, which is celebrating Maine Arbor Week from May 20th through the 26th, 2019. And whereas the cities of Lewiston and Auburn applaud the board's efforts to enhance the quality of life for all Twin Cities residents by improving and preserving our community forests. And whereas Lewiston and Auburn, for the 14th year in a row, have each been designated as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation in cooperation with the National Association of State Foresters and the USDA Forest Service, demonstrating that Lewiston Auburn has a very proactive board and forestry program. And whereas it was chartered in 2000, the LA Community Forest Board has planted over 200 street trees. And whereas since it was chartered in 2000, the LA Community Forest Board has received over $48,000 in grant money to plant trees, provide educational workshops, conduct a street tree inventory, and create a forest management plan. And whereas it is important to remember that trees enhance property values and contribute to the economic vitality of communities. And whereas trees also reduce erosion of vital topsoil, reduce heating and cooling costs, moderate temperature, clean the air, provide life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. Trees are also a renewable resource, providing paper, wood, fuel, and beauty within our community. And whereas wherever trees are planted, they often serve as a symbol of community renewal, and here in the Twin Cities, the presence of trees certainly goes a long way in that regard. Now, therefore, I, Kristen Cloutier, Mayor of the City of Lewiston, do hereby officially recognize May 20th through 26th, 2019 as Maine Arbor Week and applaud the LA Community Forest Board for its diligent efforts. And Councilor Pettengill, are you doing an Arbor Week event, tree planting? Okay. Will you just say what, do you give the details?
It's at Pettengill Park tomorrow at 9 a.m. on College Street in Lewiston.
Thank you. And next, we will do recognition of the Trash Amnesty Healthy Neighborhoods event. On May 3rd and 4th, Healthy Neighborhoods, who we have a lot of members of tonight, kicked off their Growing Our Tree Streets Summer Beautification Series with the Trash Amnesty event. The two-day event provided an opportunity for neighbors in the tree streets to dispose of their bulky waste free of charge, learn more about municipal recycling and waste disposal rules, and receive secure trash and recycling bins for use outside their homes. The event was sponsored by Healthy Neighborhoods and Healthy Homeworks with the guidance and support of Lewiston's Solid Waste Division. So we have a ton of you here, and I'm wondering if you can introduce yourselves.
Do you want to do that with the microphone?
That would be great. Thank you, Kathy.
Front to back,
That'd be
back
awesome.
to front.
Sure.
Wait, how do you kickstart? Is there, oh, hey gang in the back. I'll walk it around.
I'm Martha Bucher, and I'm a volunteer at the Root Cellar, and I was able to help out that weekend and had a really great time. I'm Emily Klein, and I also volunteer at the Root Cellar.
I'm Shanna Cox. I live and work in the neighborhood.
My name's Carson Ocker. I volunteer at the Lewiston Root Cellar and also live in the neighborhood.
My name is Chad Sparks, and I live in the neighborhood. And this is my dad, Tim.
My name is Winston Antoine, and I also live in the neighborhood.
My name is Snyder Pedro, and I work for Raise Up, and I live in the neighborhood too.
My name is Ben Grenier. I live and work in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Sarah Barton. I live and work in Lewiston and helped volunteer and organize the event.
Amy Smith with Healthy Homeworks and helped organize the event and work in Lewiston a lot.
Travis Johnson, I'm with Take Two in Lewiston and we had a whole crew. It was a great event.
Ashley Medina. I live and work at live in Lewiston and work at Take Two, and I did a lot of outreach and helped with the event as well.
I'm Paige Wagner. I'm the Healthy Neighborhoods Network organizer, and I could not be more proud of all of the volunteers that we had.
Craig Sapmeyer. I live in the neighborhood on Maple Street, and I work for the Raise Up Housing Cooperative on Pierce Street.
Stuart Brown. I live in 141 Pierce Street, all the way through the Raise Up.
So on behalf of the council, I just want to thank you guys all so much for your hands-on effort, and please relay our thanks to everyone who couldn't be here tonight. And I just want to give folks an idea of what you guys actually accomplished. So you all removed 63,268 pounds, which is over 31.5 tons of unwanted items, including dumpsters of bulky and household waste, pallets of electronics, a U-Haul truck filled with metal, a U-Haul truck filled with wood, a U-Haul cargo trailer filled with recyclable cardboard, excellent, a U-Haul cargo trailer filled with tires, and 16 generous sponsored made the completely self-funded $18,000 event possible. So no city money was actually used to do this. This was a full volunteer and self-funded event through grants and donations from TD Bank, Community Concepts, J.T. Gorman Foundation, Maine Health Access Foundation, Avesta Housing, and Norway Savings Bank, and discounts, waived fees, and donated services from U-Haul of Auburn, Almighty Waste, Air Serve of Lewiston, the Italian Bakery, I'm sure thanks to Emma, Androscoggin Bank, St. Mary's Nutrition Center, the City of Lewiston, Hannaford, Home Depot, Capson, and GA Downing. So thanks to all your sponsors, and thanks again to you all so much. So come on up and take a picture, get your certificate.
You assume position?
Sure. You might not be the only one, but I'll be great. Oh, go ahead. You don't want to do it? You don't have to if you don't want to. Yeah.
I know.
And now we're going to do a presentation of the Lewiston Firefighters Association Scholarship to our very own Emma Williams. So the 2019 Community Service Scholarship, well, let me read this first. So the Lewiston Firefighters Association provides an annual $1,000 community service scholarship to a deserving Lewiston Youth Advisory Council graduating senior to use towards his or her continuing education. The scholarship honors one graduating high school senior who has contributed to the well-being of others within their community through public service. All Lewiston Youth Advisory Council graduating seniors are eligible to apply. The award is not automatically awarded to an individual who holds an officer position. And to apply, each applicant must submit a 500-word essay that includes various information, including why they decided to join the Youth Advisory Council, what they've learned through their experience, how they've contributed to the community, why they believe community service is important. So this year's winner is Emma Williams, and she is a graduating high school senior and Lewiston Youth Advisory Council member who has demonstrated excellence in civic engagement. And during her tenure on the Youth Council, she has enthusiastically contributed to her community, and her efforts to make a positive difference are commended. So thanks, Emma. And we have Rick from the Lewiston Firefighters Association, who's going to present you with your scholarship.
On behalf of all the firefighters in the city of Lewiston, Lewiston Firefighters Association are proud to give you this annual scholarship. We looked over the essays that we received. Your time management skills. I told you part of my reasons earlier that I see you on Sunday mornings at the Italian bakery, you're always smiling, and I never put two and two together until I saw you up here one night when I was at a council meeting. But the fact that you can work 20 hours a week, volunteer at Montello School, keep your grades up, and have a smile on a Sunday morning tells me that you're going to go far. Congratulations. Yeah, you're on the hook now. You're on the hook.
Ready for your picture?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, Rick, I'll take my photos.
So now we will move on to acceptance of the minutes of the May 7th, 2019 meeting. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I mean, we have an update from the Lewiston Youth Advisory Council.
As a follow-up to our successful Lock in Your Kindness positive note placing event at the Lewiston High School, we are continuing our anti-bullying campaign. Last week, we met to review the anti-bullying posters we received from Lewiston elementary schools. Farwell and McMahon participated in our poster contest. We selected 3 winners from each school and will be having a recognition ceremony for those students on Wednesday, June 5th at 6 p.m. in the 3rd floor conference room at City Hall. If there is no Board of Appeals meeting that evening, we'll move the event to the council chambers. The recognition event will focus on the posters, LAC members talking about the importance of bullying, talking about the importance of being kind, an audience open mic, a brief video about bullying, gift presentation to the winning students, and the launch of our I Will Not Bully pledge card opportunity. Our next outreach about bullying will be at the Lewiston Middle School. If possible, we'd like to speak at an assembly and offer the pledge card opportunity there as well. May 17th was the deadline for applicants for the 2019-2020 year of LYAC. In June, we lose 6 graduating seniors and 6 members are returning. 1 current member cannot return due to her taking a leadership position at St. Dom's. We also have 14 new applications and interviews will be held mid-June. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. And now we will move on to acceptance of the minutes from the May 7th, 2019 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Ray, seconded by Councilor Pettengill. All those in favor?
Motion passes 7-0.
And now we will open it up to public comment period. Any member of the public may make comments regarding issues pertaining to Lewiston City Government. 3 minutes per speaker, and a maximum time of all comments is 15 minutes.
Hi, everyone. I'm still Craig Saddlemeyer from Maple Street in Lewiston. And I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the workshop item regarding the rental registry program. I'm also very excited that this is being brought forward. I think the committee did a great job. I wasn't on the committee, but I did attend some of the meetings and gave input. I felt my input was included. I think there are a lot of diverse voices at the table that contributed to that. And I mean, I think the recommendations are going to do a lot to help not solve things on their own, but just give what it does is it helps improve communication, transparency, and access to some very basic information that the city needs, but I think the public needs as well. So one of the things that we're trying to do through a lot of our efforts in the neighborhood is improve it and sort of rebuild the housing market itself. And good information is an important part of having a healthy market of any kind. And when property owners don't know who their neighbors are, when tenants don't know actually who owns their building, And when the city doesn't even know who they need to get in touch with to resolve an issue, you know, that's a problem. It creates a lot of inefficiencies, and it creates a lot of lost opportunities for communication. So I think, and at the Raise Up, we've found the value in improving communication just between residents and neighbors themselves, but we want to see that happen at a broader neighborhood level. And I think the rental registry program is going to help facilitate that communication. So I'm looking forward to its actual implementation at future council meetings and at the staff level. And yeah, just wanted to advocate my support for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment period? Okay. Go ahead, Kathy.
The roll call votes for this meeting will begin with the Councilor of Ward 3.
Thank you. So we have the consent agenda first.
Consent agenda, there are 2 items on the consent agenda this evening. Item number 1, appointment to the Lewiston Area Public Health Committee. And item number 2, order authorizing execution of a municipal quitclaim deed for real estate located at 11 Goff Street.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Councilor LaJoy, seconded by Councilor Lyson. Any discussion on the council? To the public? Back to the council? Call the roll.
Councilor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Ward 2?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7 to, I'm sorry, and Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Sorry. Motion passed by a vote of 7 to 0.
Agenda item number 3.
Item number 3, public hearing for approval of an outdoor entertainment permit for an outdoor theater performance to be held at Kennedy Park. Requested action to conduct a public hearing on an application for an outdoor entertainment event for the main inside performance and dialogue event, and to grant a permit for an outdoor entertainment event as required by the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 10, Article 1, Section 10-3, to the main Inside Out organization for a live entertainment theater performance to be held at Kennedy Park on June 12, 2019, contingent upon positive recommendations from the Police Department, Fire Department, Code, Health Officer, and Land Use Inspector regarding compliance with all regulations and compliance with all city ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Lyson, seconded by Councilor Beam. Any discussion on the council? To the public? Back to the council? Call the roll.
Councilor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
And Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7 to 0.
Agenda item number 4.
Item number 4, public hearing on the renewal application for a special amusement permit for live entertainment for Bare Bones Incorporated, 43 Lisbon Street. Requested action to grant a special amusement permit for live entertainment to Bare Bones Incorporated, 43 Lisbon Street.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Lyson, seconded by Councilor Pettingill. Any discussion on the council? To the public? Back to the council? Call the roll.
Councilor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
And Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7 to 0.
Agenda item number 5.
Item number 5, public hearing on the renewal application for a special amusement permit for live entertainment for Sonder and Dram Incorporated, 12 Ash Street. Requested action to grant a special amusement permit for live entertainment to Sonder and Dram Incorporated, 12 Ash Street.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Marcotte, seconded by Councilor Lyson. Any discussion on the council? To the public? Back to the council? Call the roll.
Councilor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
And Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7 to 0.
Agenda item number 6.
Item number 6, public hearing and first passage for land use code amendments regarding the creation of the Lisbon Street Commercial Historic District. Requested action that the proposed amendments to Appendix A, Article 15, Significant Buildings and Districts, Section 6, Designated Historic Structures and Historic Districts, subsection B2, Lisbon Street Commercial Historic District of the City Zoning and Land Use Code, receive first passage by a roll call vote, and that the public hearing on said ordinance be continued to the next regularly scheduled city council meeting.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Lyson, seconded by Councilor LaJoy. Can we get an overview from the Director of Planning and Code on this item?
Thanks. This is simply an expansion of an existing historic district that was on Lisbon Street. Back in 2017, actually Jules Patry was looking to get his building on the National Register, the old furniture building here. Somebody could probably tell me what that is on the corner of Pine and Lisbon Street. And as a result of that, we got some funding from the state where there would be a 50% match, and we could participate in some of that. Jules would participate, and the state would pay the rest of that. In doing so, they studied that corridor. You folks actually authorized some funding back in 2017. We hired a consultant. It was completed in 2018, and it added a number of buildings to that district. There is a map in here that shows where the district was and how much bigger it is now. The smaller part of the existing district would be on the left side, or I guess the right side of your map here, and we've expanded it all the way to Main Street. So in doing so, that's been recognized by the National Park Service, and we need to amend the zoning and land use code to make reference to those same contributing structures in the geographic area.
Thanks. Any discussion on the council? Councilor Marcotte.
I was curious, looking at the map, maybe it's a simple reasoning. Why wouldn't the City Hall, Public Library, St. Joseph's Church be included?
We were told not to include it. We had that same discussion when the lines were originally being drawn as to which buildings wouldn't be included where. The library and the City Hall are already on the National Register, so they're already recognized buildings, but they're not part of this district. The Maine Historic provides guidance as to where the lines can go, and honestly, I wasn't involved necessarily in how they arrived at where these are, but we had similar questions as to expanding it into certain properties. There was some discussion about including the PEX building in it. That's not in here as well. Even going up to the church on the corner of, get my streets right, Bates and Main Street, that's not included as well. So we're kind of stuck with what we have at this point.
And we included the building across the street on Main Street?
Yep, that's where Mary's Candy used to be. They've determined that that was a significant contributing structure for purposes of historic reasons.
Benefits and responsibilities of the district?
It certainly helps out anybody who has a property in there that's designated as a contributing structure. They're potentially eligible for historic tax credits, so that's a big bonus there. You had a second part of that question. Responsibilities, I guess, was what you said?
Yeah.
Not so much on the city side. If there's going to be any activity in this area, it does raise, and there's federal funds involved, there is a higher threshold as far as the expectations to the construction that occurs there. So if somebody does build a new building on a vacant lot there involving federal funds, they do have to meet certain historic guidelines.
Only when I use historic federal funds.
Okay.
Other questions on the council? To the public? Back to the council. Call the roll.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Agenda item number 7.
Item number 7, public hearing and adoption of the fiscal year 2020 Lewiston Capital Improvement Program Bond Issue Order. Requested action to adopt the fiscal year 2020 Lewiston Capital Improvement Program Bond Issue Order, authorizing the issuance of $16,703,000 in fiscal year 2020 public improvement bonds and making an appropriation for certain capital projects.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Lyson, seconded by Councilor LaJoy. So we're opening this up for public hearing. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Questions on the council? Councilor Lyson.
Yeah, I know we've had some discussions about how costs, especially labor costs, have gone up significantly in construction projects. And I'm a little concerned that our street maintenance program, which is part of the LCIP, might not be able to do all of the streets that have been designated to be repaired this season. And I know some letters have already gone out, letting people know, and I guess that raises expectations about, it also talks about street closures and mailbox stuff and things like that, some functional stuff, but it also kind of raises expectation that streets are getting repaired. And I'm just concerned about what can we do if and when that, let's say, the street maintenance programs, there's more streets than there is money, let's put it that way, in this year's, not.
So, you know, I think we talked about that last night, Counselor. We met a couple weeks ago with our paving program. We're trying to rush that out as quickly as we can, in part as, I think we've all talked, that probably the greatest contributing factor, materials are a factor, but the greatest contributing factor is labor and the ability of contractors to secure labor. So the thought is, let's try to get that contract on the street as quick as we can. Some of the reasons that the notices went out early is because we are gonna put it out very quickly. And there is kind of a catch-22 in there, but we wanna make sure residents know that we're coming, and if there are issues, drainage issues, other issues, that we can manage those as we go through. So you're absolutely right, it does raise expectations. We're still hopeful that we'll be able to manage most of those projects, but as we saw the other day with Middle and Blake, we're beginning to see what the rest of the state is seeing with some increased costs. So only time will tell. Unfortunately, the way state budgets and city budgets work, it kind of puts us in a bad, it's probably the worst time to advertise projects, but if you can do them this summer, we have to. And we'll be back to the Finance Committee and to you all if there's a substantial change.
Anything else from the council? Call the roll.
Council from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
And Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Agenda item number 8.
Item number 8, resolve renewing and extending the mutual cooperation agreement between the City of Lewiston and the City of Auburn to form a consortium under the Federal Home Investment Partnership Program. Requested action to approve the resolve renewing and extending the mutual cooperation agreement between the City of Lewiston and the City of Auburn to form a consortium under the Federal Home Investment Partnership Program.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Ray, seconded by Councilor Lyson. Discussion, can we get an overview of this item, please?
Sure. This is really a renewal of something that's been in place since, I believe it's 2001. There have been no changes to it. The agreement effectively has Auburn as the managing partner, so they get a little bit more of the 10%. They get 7% of the 10% administrative costs. They're the ones who have to deal with HUD as far as reporting out and tracking and putting it into the IDS reporting software. It really lays out the responsibilities of each party. Each city handles its own home funds, allocates it. Decisions are made at the local level, but they're the ones who do the reporting. In a nutshell is what the agreement is all about.
Questions on the council? Councilor Marcotte.
Why is Auburn the managing partner?
It was done that way back in 2001, and frankly, it's relatively small money, 10% of the administrative costs. I am happy that they're handling the larger portion of the burden, to be frank. I'm glad they are. We have never really talked about swapping it back and forth. Their former Community Development Director, Rain Minahan, was the one with the most experience in that realm when this agreement was first set up. She is retired at this point. Jane Yoakum, who's the person on our side of the river, who's got the most experience with it. She's pleased that Auburn has the responsibility, would just soon not have it, and Jane's retiring next year.
Any further questions on the council? Councilor Lyson.
So their council's being asked to take a similar action as we are?
They took it last night and they approved it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes.
Any further discussion on the council? To the public? Back to the council? Councilor Marcotte.
I have a concern with the program that lasts an entire generation. As other programs have lasted more than a couple generations, and it seems that we just can never get out from under this need for someone else's money, an expropriation of other people's tax dollars, whether it's state, federal, or local, and whether it's ours specifically or someone else's, and whether we get a bigger share or a smaller share of our taxes back. It's a never-ending story. How long is it going to take before we fix all the problems we need to fix? Or is this just a perpetual lifeline for the non-profiteers to get involved in and make their economy out of these deals?
These dollars have been primarily, the biggest chunk of it has been used to help provide a small portion of the funding needed for workforce housing projects. These monies have also been used to support low-income homeowners rehabilitate their properties when they become code deficient and need to be fixed. These monies are also used to help folks who are homeless or at risk of being homeless to make a loan to them for a security deposit. And the third place that we're using these dollars just recently, we've yet to actually launch it, but the program's in place, which is if you've got a family who is, once again, looking to having to relocate to go somewhere else, we'll provide, it's similar to a Section 8 certificate, but it's only for 2 years, which would allow the family to stay in their apartment and keep their kids in the school, which will provide better outcomes for the child in the school. So it's sort of a diverse mix of things. I will say that the biggest chunk of this is out of $1 million project, excuse me, a $9 million project, we might have $300,000 of home funds that go into it. So it's a small percentage, but it's an important percentage as far as helping secure low-income housing tax credits for a project. But that's it. So it's not, it's really to help create affordable housing in Lewiston and Auburn. And until we have no further need, when we have no poor people, when we have nobody needing security deposits, perhaps we just walk away from the program at that point, but I don't think we're there.
There was one time in our history, and it lasted more than a century, that we didn't need this. I think we're weaving our own web here, creating a need, or a need not necessarily was there at one time. It becomes an addiction of another sort. Not a drug addiction, but an addiction of another sort.
Councilor Lyson.
Thank you. Programs like this, you can disagree with the policies or whatever, but they exist. And if we don't draw money down and do stuff in our community consistent with the goals and objectives of the program, then we can't use it. And if we don't, someone else will, and we're paying taxes to support this because it's been determined to be something that, be it the federal, state, or local governments are participating in. So I'm here to say, as long as we've got the need and we can meet those needs, and we can draw down money from the federal government to help pay for those because it's consistent with their program, I'd rather have the money come here to Lewiston, Maine, than to go someplace else. If you want to change the policy, that's another matter. But as long as it exists, I think we ought to be aggressive in trying to do what's necessary to draw down as much money as we can to support such important activities. Thank you.
Anyone else on the council? To the public? Back to the council. Call the roll.
Council from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
No.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
And Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 6 to 1.
Agenda item number 9.
Item number 9, resolve establishing the honorary position of the Youth Poet Laureate for the City of Lewiston. Requested action to approve the resolve establishing the honorary position of Youth Poet Laureate for the City of Lewiston.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Ray, seconded by Councilor Pettengill. Any discussion on the council? For the public?
Oh, when you come back.
Back to the council.
I just wanted to say, I think this is a really great idea, and I shared it with the school committee last night, and they also thought it was really great, so I just wanted to thank the mayor for this initiative and for encouraging the arts for our youth.
So I can't take full credit for it. It was a suggestion by Jen Carter, who leads our 21st Century program, who does a lot of work with Jow Victor in particular, so, and who's doing great work around an open mic at LA Arts, so she deserves the credit. Call the roll.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2?
Yes.
And Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7 to 0.
Agenda item number 10, sorry. That's you.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, I have notes. Yesterday, May 20th, we met, and I went through a workshop on guidance, which covers a whole host of different things within the school system. We also spoke with the LHS expansion, very similar to the workshop that we did here. And then one other thing I wanted to let you all know about. So I serve on the Maine Education Policy Research Institute Steering Committee, and they've been doing a lot of work at the state level with the Education Committee, and we are setting up for next year for what we'll be studying. And it's really great to have Lewiston's voice at the table, talking about, challenges we encounter. So I think one thing we've heard is Lewiston provides food for all students, but as a result of that, we don't track our free and reduced lunch rates, and so that's impacting funding. And so it's great to have the ear of some folks who then have the ear of the Ed Committee at the State House to talk about these sort of things. So they're looking at teacher shortages, which then leads to administrator shortages, community schools, charter schools, food security, all sorts of issues. But again, really great to have Lewiston at the table.
Agenda item number 11.
Any other business, any other city business counselors or others may have relating to Lewiston City Government?
Seeing none, Counselor Lyson, do you have a motion?
I do indeed. I move into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Section 405-6C, to discuss an economic development issue of which the premature disclosure of the information would prejudice the competitive bidding position of the city.
Second.
I have a motion by Counselor Lyson, seconded by Counselor Ray. All those in favor?